Ben Weinman, and Mark Haka, bringing you the content that connects our community. You're watching NonStop Local Montana at 5.
We open our show on this Friday evening with breaking news. Officials say they have found human remains believed to be Travis Decker, the Washington State man accused of killing his 3 daughters. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Ben Weinman. Here's what we know so far tonight. Local affiliates citing the Chelan County Sheriff's Office say the remains were found in a remote wooded area. Positive identification has not yet been confirmed, but authorities have been searching for Decker for months. Decker is accused of killing 5-year-old Olivia, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 9-year-old Peyton. They were found suffocated to death at an abandoned campsite in Washington State this past June. And back here in Montana, the Helena Police Department says they're searching for a missing boy tonight named Ryan Hardesty, who has not been seen since September 9th. He's 16 years old, 5'6", 130 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. If you have any information regarding his whereabouts, you're asked to contact the Helena PD 406-465-8865. New information tonight. We now know that Montana Rescue Mission has fired their leader, Matt Lundgren. Lundgren has been terminated and is no longer associated with the Montana Rescue Mission, the Billings Leadership Foundation, or the Friendship House. As we've reported, the rescue mission is currently undergoing an internal investigation, and a third party has been brought in to handle it. We've reached out to the rescue mission to find out if today's firing is going to impact any programming or services. We'll bring you those details when they become available. In big news out of Flathead County tonight, a plane crash has claimed the life of one man today. Details limited at this time tonight, but here's what Sheriff Brian Haino told us when we reached out to him this afternoon.
Around noon today, we had a plane crash near the Ferndale airstrip. Ferndale Fire Department was initial on scene because there was the plane was on fire. We have confirmed one is deceased from that crash, and we are working with our coroner's office and NTSB to try to identify him and other details of it. But right now the scene is stabilized. The coroner's on scene, NTSB is en route, and we're just kind of investigating for further details. We don't have much past that. So.
We'll provide you further info once we learn more about the events that led up to that plane crash. And at a lame deer tonight east of Billings, classes thankfully resumed normally today. All of this following a crazy week of disruptions brought upon by safety concerns involving threats. On Sunday, Lame Deer Public Schools announced that they'd close their schools on Monday due to safety concerns involving those threats. While school was closed on Monday, the school district announced that starting Tuesday, access to the school building would become limited in an effort to strengthen security. Then on Wednesday, classes were dismissed at 1 in the afternoon due to safety concerns. And then yesterday morning, the school announced that classes would be held remotely. Today, Lame Deer schools had a regular school day. Our team, by the way, did reach out to the public school district to learn more about the nature of those threats. When we hear from them, we'll get back to you right here on NonStop Local. In a developing story tonight, a Great Falls man has changed his plea in a high-profile sex trafficking case that involved a 15-year-old girl. Our Joey Taylor has the details tonight on what that new agreement means moving forward. And folks, we do want to let you know, of course, the details in this case might be disturbing for some viewers.
William Allery was arrested in February of 2024, accused of raping and trafficking a 15-year-old girl. According to court documents, the victim told detectives Allery raped her several times, gave her drugs, and forced her to have sex with other men in exchange for money and meth. She also said he threatened to hurt her mother if she talked. Allery and co-defendant James Amato were arrested at the same time. Amato was sentenced earlier this year for endangering the welfare of a child, criminal possession of dangerous drugs, and accountability for criminal distribution of drugs. That sentencing after Amato entering an Alford plea. On September 18th, Allery also entered an Alford plea. What this means is he maintains that he is innocent, but he recognizes there is enough evidence to convict him. Allery pleaded to felony counts of endangering the welfare of a child, tampering with witnesses, and accountability for drug distribution. The Cascade County Attorney's Office recommended suspended 5-year sentences on each charge. Other charges, including rape and promoting prostitution, would be dismissed under the deal. County Attorney Josh Rackey confirmed with me that he spoke with the victim about the plea agreement, and she said coming to court to testify would not be helpful for her mental health or treatment process. Allery's sentencing will be in November. In Great Falls, I'm Joey Taylor, NonStop Local.
Joey, thank you very much. Folks, tracking crime out of Missoula tonight, police are sharing updates regarding their investigation into a possible assault. According to MPD, they say at about 7:30 this morning, they got a call reporting the assault at the home in the 700 block of Vine Street. When officers arrived on the scene, they found an injured man. The man was taken to a hospital to receive medical care. The man reportedly did not wish to cooperate with the investigation or seek help from police. So officers disengaged and cleared the area. According to MPD, there is no known threat to the public. And more crime tonight. The U.S. Attorney's Office District of Montana says a man from Fort Belknap was just sentenced on assault charges. According to court documents, on July 15th of 2023, Jeremy Walker broke into a woman's room and beat her with a baseball bat, which led to her hospitalization. Walker pleaded guilty to assault resulting in serious bodily injury earlier this year in April. This week, a judge sentenced Walker to 7 years in prison and 3 years of supervised release. And then also this week, the district attorney's office says a woman from Browning was sentenced for assault. According to court documents, last year in May, Cody Ground broke into a man's car and demanded a ride. When the driver didn't cooperate, she beat him over the head and fled the scene, and it led to the man's hospitalization. Now, she pleaded guilty to assault resulting in serious bodily injury earlier this May. This week, she was sentenced to 1 year in prison and 3 years of supervised release. And unfortunately, assault cases here in Montana have steadily risen throughout the last decade. As you can see, back in 2015, 10 years ago, 2,700 people were victimized by aggravated assault. That number shot up to just over 4,000 people in 2024. And then a safety alert for you tonight out of Butte, America. Authorities are urging the public to stay safe and be vigilant in light of a bear sighting. Butte Silverbow Emergency Management says a bear was seen in the 4200 block of Sacramento Street at about 5:30 this morning. As per the most recent update that we've received, the bear was last seen climbing up a nearby tree. FWP constructed a fence around the tree and set up a trap within that fenced area. Police are monitoring the situation. And speaking of bears, FWP says when you explore our Big Sky country, always carry bear spray and be prepared to use it. Also, always travel in groups, make casual noise during your hike, and make sure you stay away from any dead animals. And by the way, if you encounter a bear, don't approach it. And then never feed bears. It's illegal to feed them here in Montana. And then tracking safety concerns involving local wildlife out of Chelan County tonight. According to the Red Lodge Fire Rescue, they say yesterday morning their team helped 2 people who got attacked by a moose. This reportedly happened when a couple was walking their dogs when they encountered a cow, a calf, and a bull moose. Believing the dogs to be a threat to the calf, the cow moose chased the dogs. The couple getting hurt during the encounter. They were taken to Beartooth Billings Clinic to receive medical attention. And with regards to moose safety, the National Park Service says if you find yourself close to a moose in the wild, try to just remain unseen. If the moose does notice you, talk to it softly and walk away slowly. Don't be aggressive. You want to convince the moose that you're not a threat. And unlike with bears, it's advisable to run away from a moose if you think it's ready to charge, since they typically won't chase after you for long distances. Don't run from a bear, run from a moose. That's all you need to know as we head into the weekend. And hey, speaking of the weekend, that is upon us tonight. Meteorologist Mark Hakett joining us tonight. What Mother Nature has in store for those Saturday and Sunday plans. Mark, it is the last summer weekend of 2025. What can folks expect?
Beautiful weather. Wow, Ben, yeah. Tomorrow's going to be beautiful statewide. Now, by Sunday afternoon, western Montana may see some thunderstorms, which I'll be off that day, and I would love to experience a thunderstorm. Let's take a look, a little time lapse here. And we had a gorgeous sunrise, not only in Missoula, but a good look at that. Good portion of Montana, just beautiful conditions, some high, thin cirrus clouds moving through. And a beautiful day, beautiful evening. Should I say beautiful the third time? I just did. You get the picture. It is 85 degrees in Missoula. We ought to be in the low 70s. Even where it's in the 70s, it's above average. 74 in Billings, 76 Glasgow, 81 Great Falls, 79 in Bozeman, 88 out in Lewiston. Clear skies, lots of sunshine. As I said, a beautiful, for the fourth time, evening in Big Sky Country. Winds are light and under 10 miles per hour. All right, let's take a look through the weekend. And as you can see, we are going to have cooler weather come in Monday. That is the first day of autumn. So enjoy a warm Saturday, a pleasant Sunday, much cooler Monday in Missoula and Kalispell. Butte, you're going to be cooling to 59 Monday, 60 by Monday in Bozeman. Look at the temperature difference. So all of us will have warm weather this weekend and then turning much cooler to start autumn on Monday. Interestingly, just that day is going to be cool, and then we're going to be looking at warmer temperatures again next week. After that, I'll have more.
Markeka, thank you very much. Well, new information tonight. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte held a roundtable discussion about the state of education in our state this afternoon with United States Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. Our Michael Teeple joining us tonight to break down what we learned about the future of local education in the Treasure State.
Here at Montana State University, Governor Greg Gianforte sat down for a conversation with U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. That conversation focused on innovations being made to help direct students into the workforce. McMahon met with educators, administrators, students, industry partners, and local officials to talk about recent investments that have been made to Montana's school and workforce programs. Secretary McMahon says in relation to today's conversation about education, funding cuts for IEP programs is not something that states need to be concerned with.
That money will continue to come through and be utilized as it is needed in the state. So that is something the state should not be worried about.
Another important detail the Secretary made sure to touch on was a focus on literacy within schools at the elementary level all the way to high school.
My number one priority as a Secretary of State is literacy, because we have found throughout our country, high schoolers, 8th graders, 4th graders are reading at about 30% proficiency. We cannot have that.
While the Secretary of Education provided her insight on the state of education in Montana, Montana Governor Greg Gianforte also shared his thoughts, particularly on the accessibility of hands-on learning programs.
We also need to make sure that every student is able to reach their full potential, because if the next Beethoven is born in Big Timber, we want to know we have a great music composition teacher. We can do that by complementing our in-classroom teachers with subject matter experts.
Governor Gianforte says he wants to continue innovating with career and technical education programs, with more than 3,000 Montana high school students receiving career and technical education opportunities. Reporting in Bozeman, I'm Michael Teeple, NonStop Local.
Michael, thank you very much. And beyond the Big Sky, tonight, the U.S. House of Representatives narrowly passed a Republican plan today that would fund the government through November 21st. The 7-week stopgap bill passed 217 to 212, and of those 217 yes votes, 216 of them came from Republicans. Our congressional delegation, both Representative Ryan Zinke and Representative Troy Downing, voted in support of that stopgap bill. And with regards to his yes vote, Representative Zinke said in part, quote, "I voted for today's 51-day continuing resolution because it gives Congress a set amount of time to tackle the remaining departmental funding bills while keeping our borders secure, our veterans healthy, and government working for the American people," end quote. And with regards to his yes vote, Representative Troy Downing said tonight, quote, "House Republicans voted to keep the government open so that we can continue our work to return to regular order and end the revolving door of continuing resolutions that have plagued Washington for far too long." Now, the House vote set up the Senate to take up that measure. 2 measures were rejected by the upper house, the House approving measure along with the Senate Democratic proposal. Both measures failed to get the required 60 votes. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the funding bill needs to do more to address Americans' needs.
We do not want to shut down. Our position has never changed. We need bipartisan legislation to keep the government open and meet the needs of the American people, especially on costs, specifically health care costs.
In response, our 2 U.S. Senators, Steve Daines and Tim Sheehy, each accused Democrats of obstruction. Here's what they had to say.
Republicans do not want to shut the government down, It's the radical left who have co-opted Chuck Schumer, bending to their will to put us in a position where we could have a government shutdown.
They've set an unprecedented record on obstruction of those nominees, and now the shutdown is an extension of that. So we are witnessing unprecedented obstruction in this institution.
Now, Senate members were set to leave today for a week-long recess. That means their return to D.C. would come with less than 48 hours to avert a government shutdown. And also beyond the big sky tonight, continuing to track the fate of TikTok. It looks like the social media company may stay here in the United States if negotiations to achieve that goal continue to progress. President Trump speaking by phone today with Chinese leader Xi Jinping and says they made progress on a deal that would allow the popular app to stay operational here in the U.S. The agreement is expected to include selling most of the platform's U.S. assets to American investors. A bipartisan bill that banned TikTok unless it handed over at least 80% of its assets to U.S. operators was signed into law last year by President Biden. But Trump halted that ban several times while the deal was pursued. Wow, busy Friday evening, but we are just getting started. After the break, Mark Haka returning with a longer look at your forecast. Plus, atrial fibrillation can cause serious, potentially deadly health problems. We're going to share the warning signs to keep an eye out for, and keep it right here. You're watching NonStop Local.